To the stream. My name is Lee. I'm trying to do the voice. It should start going down naturally when I take the testosterone. Check this out. Here, I'll hold it so that it's. This is it. That's the good stuff. Pretty cool. My magic goop. Barbecue sauce packets, as it were. But yeah. It's a little silly, I think. But what was I gonna do? Oh yes. My plan, as such, was to go and do a thing. So I'm gonna go and pop into some places, say hi to some people, see if anyone wants to come vibe with us. See what's what. Ooh. Yes. Ooh, okay. We are gonna go do that. That's the thing we're gonna do. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm getting distracted. So today is Friday, is it not? And unusual for usually on Fridays, what I do, is to dig up shenanigans, this, that, and the other thing. So I go to my downloads and I go through and I say, hey, what the heck is? Hang on. Oh yes, this is a recent snag from CCRPG, I believe. It might have been it was either one of the ones I won or one of their freebies, and I snagged it because CCRPG is pretty awesome. I know they're big sponsors of a gajillion different channels, and all the cool channels are sponsored by CZRPG because they're awesome like that. And I finally got my hands on some of this whatever this is, and I think it's interesting. So that might be the start for today. For those of you who are new to the stream, hi, my name is Lee. The image vibes today, sure they is fine. Just remember I'm not a woman and we'll be square. Boom, 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 boom. No, but this one. Ha! I knew there was one. Boom. Okay. All right. I will pass along the message. Oh, okay. So they're, yes, okay. I'm not gonna do that then. I'm gonna go to instead, where else am I gonna go? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's go to Phoenix. So so it's pretty cool. Okay, so Dutrong is, let me bop this up a little and let me do that. Yes. Of domain of dry fields and spilled blood. Okay, that already sounds pretty cool. And it is getting close to Halloween, so actually that could be a fun thing to do. I probably would not, I wonder if anyone's, okay, this is gonna sound insane, but, oh! I wonder if, alright, that's a fandom question for later, but keep it in our mind. Okay, the plan. Plan. Okay, I think that's about it. Yeah, I'll pop into here and... I almost spelled a foot with 2 F's and 1 O, which is... All right. Let's see. Oh, we have 2 viewers. Welcome. Friends are always welcome. I was hoping for a few more than 2, but that's okay. You know how it goes. Meh, that's fine. Also, I should pop in. But, Temeraire had learned from the older hunter well. She had soaked her crossbow bolts in holy water with more vials of the blessed water stored on her belt, beside a dozen wooden stakes. The old man had even been kind enough to lend her a magical dagger, a gift from his own teacher many years prior. She stood before the entrance to Chateau La Berge with no fear, only determination and a low, simmering rage. She would free Esme, and she'd kill every accursed vampire that tried to stop her. Okay. Fine. I'm just trying to get, in case anyone pops in on chat, I want to see. But I also want to keep reading this because it's interesting, and I'm sure you guys are into it. The guards posted at the gate were little challenged. They were arrogant, dismissive, and out of practice. The first she'd pierced through the heart before slashing out his throat, while the second she'd stuck in the eye with a crossbow bolt. Steeling herself with a quick breath and a short prayer that Esme was okay, Temeraire slammed her boot into the door, throwing it wide open. Inside, she beheld an opulent hall of fine gold-trimmed carpets and banners, tables lined with more food than she'd ever seen in one place, and a giant fountain of glistening crimson blood. Before her, dozens of vampire nobles, clad in impossible finery, stared at her with a contempt that soon melted into delighted hunger. It appears we have an uninvited guest. A voice spoke from the far end of the hall. She wore a long black and red dress that trailed along the ground with a high collar shaped like a pair of fangs. She had rich, dark skin, long white locks tied in an elaborate bun, and glowing red eyes that bored directly into Temeraire's skull. She was the Baroness Belpine. Belpine? Hang on. Belpine, the tyrant of Dutrong and the monsters that took Esme away from her. Before Temeraire could muster her well-rehearsed, witty retort, the Baroness spoke again. You're here for the little girl, aren't you? The one from Virou? She's told me a lot about you. Temeraire was shocked. What was this accursed hag doing talking to Esme? It appears you made good work of Sir Gauche and Sir Droit. Sorry. You've a strong spirit, girl. A brazen spirit, but a strong one nonetheless. Give her back, you blood-sucking wretch. Temeraire pushed her confusion aside and made her demands. If she died here, at least she'd go down fighting. But my dear, she's been having fun with us. Why spoil her evening? As she spoke, another woman stepped from the crowd, joining at the Baroness's side. It was Esme, but she was different. She wore a long gown, almost as impressive as the Baroness's, and equally lavish. Her skin, though it was always fair, was pale as chalk, turning the freckles on her face into dark stars on a white sky. Her eyes shared the scarlet hues of the undead nobility around her. Hello, Temi, she said with a familiar, sweet smile. This was no illusion, for nobody else in the world had ever called her Teme. As Temeraire went to shout out, the Baroness cut her off once again. She's one of us now, girl. Given that you have caught me in a spiriting mood, I shall give you two choices. You can become the main course for this wondrous feast, or you could join us and be with your Esme until the stars die. I feel as though your combat prowess could, along with some added discipline, mold you into a fine defender of this very chateau. On this night, the Counts of Dutronc would have a new member or a fine meal. Okay. Wow. Okay. That is an intensive... Yeah, that's intensive. Okay. So this is a map, because maps are cool. There's the Homereau Forest, Morville, Nouvelle Ruin, Tir-Moras, Cras, River Foncé, Lake Foncé, River Aisne, River Pure, River Femme, Devorant Forest, another Devorant Forest, and then the River Femme runs through that to Moublon, Grelin Ruin, Sougri, Cremoisy Heights, Foncé is, I believe, strength. Femme is hunger. Pur is fear. Haine is hatred. So it's, all sorts of, it's just French. It's just really French horror. I love it. I think this is pretty cool. Chateau Lamberge, Baroness Belpinet-Laberge, Dark Fantasy and Gothic Horror, Miss Talismans, La Laberge Family Crest, A Vial of Blood, A Vampire Fang. Dutronc is a realm of decadence for some and a prison with naught but dust for all the rest. Here, human peasants struggle for survival in this harsh land, eking out whatever meager living they can muster, all before they are snatched up and devoured en masse by their ravenous vampire lords. The struggling barony of Dutronc sits within a deep valley of dry, poisoned earth, where crops struggle to grow and trees often wither. The valley's borders are marked by the Cremoisy Heights, penning in the populace on the southern and western sides. From the mountain range, three rivers flow. To the west, the River Pur and the River Haine carve through the rocky landscape, together to form Lake Foncé. From this lake stems a river of the same name, which flows eastward. Oh, okay. So I see. These two rivers flow into the lake, and the lake flows out. Okay, so the ocean is this way, not okay. They all go this way. Hang on. Oh yeah, because there's mountains. Okay, I see. All right, it makes sense. No, sorry. My nose is itchy, and I mean, this is pretty cool. Not gonna lie, it's very Viggy Halloween. I like it. Let's see. The acidic swamp that dominates the eastern border of Dutronc. Two major forests exist within Dutronc, with as many dead trees as it has living. The Humor forest stretches from the northern edge of Cremoisy mountain range to the northeastern border of the domain. To the south is the Devorant forest, split twain by the River Femme. While it sits in a marginally healthier state than its counterpart, blood-starved vampires lurk beneath the shadows of the Canemy, stalking their next meal. Dutronc maintains a low to middling temperature year-round, with rain throughout the seasons, lukewarm summers, and frigid but snowless winters. Dutronc's ever-clouded skies block the sun's rays, leaving the realm grim and gray even at the height of a summer afternoon. During each spring, the rain can pour so heavily that the whole domain floods, ruining crops and poisoning the water supplies near to the Tir-Moras. Ruled over by the lesser vampire lords of Belépin's court, the settlements of Dutronc are largely made up of small villages and only a few hundred residents at most. It exists in disrepair, with signs of once being much larger than they are today, thanks to past disasters and atrocities. The largest settlement in Dutronc, Cras, is a sizable town built to inhabit over 5,000 residents, but sustaining a population of barely 2,000. Resting on the edge of the Terre morass, the town's water supply is in constant danger of infection from the acidic swamp waters that flood the streets each year. Such a flood almost wiped out the entire town some 200 years back. While the waters themselves killed only 100 residents, the disease and famine that came with it was devastating to the populace. Those that remained revolted against their vampire masters, killing Lady Aster Ténébreux, wife of the town's lord, Lady Colette Ténébreux. Ooh, lesbian vampires. Nowadays, townfolk live their lives in the shadowy crumbling of Chateau Cras, a once opulent palace that is now little more than a crumbled ruin. Lady Colette spends her days among what remains of her castle, drowning out her sorrows with her vices, while spending her nights wantonly butchering townsfolk as an act of petty revenge for crimes that her victims have long forgotten. Morville? The ruined outer walls of Morville suggest that it was once a small city, but now only a village of 200 makes its home atop the ancient foundations. The ruins of the old city hide the terrors of the past, ghosts and ghouls that haunt the night of the starving townsfolk. The whole town is built atop a single hill, the edges of the Humor forest, with Chateau Gransong at its peak. The old castle is a foreboding fortress that stands as the only remnants of the city that once was. Within its walls hides Lord Maleficet Ramor and his small court. The vampires of Chateau Gransang are quiet and reclusive, asking little of the townsfolk beyond their monthly blood offerings. Ooh, interesting. Moublan. The furthest removed from the rest of Dutron, the village of Moublan is in severe decline. With harvest failing on the harsh soil, the village numbers dwindle each year. Currently, with only 100 residents left, the town may well have to be abandoned in the coming decades. With the stores of blood running dry, the town's master, Lord Gustave Vida, has begun resorting to drastic measures to save his village, attempting to reach higher powers through blood magic and occult rituals. Suguri, sitting beneath the Cremasy Heights, Suguri exists entirely within the walls of Chateau Suguri, home of the Lady Ditbe la Vorès. The 150 people here act as Lady Debetel's unwilling servants and living blood bags. Their lives are short and miserable. Many attempt to escape each year, but few manage to get far. Chateau Suguri itself was built around a stump of an ancient tree. While the Lady Ditbel holds no interest in the old thing, the elder humans among her servants remember its markings as sacred incantations to a largely forgotten spiritual faith. Verrou. Supposedly the oldest settlement in Dutron, Verrou is home to 700 residents that bustle around its crowded cobblestone streets. Here the people of Verrou toil day and night in the fields of behest of their lord, Régis de Roi. The lords of Chateau Verrou is a cruel and uncaring master to both the people of Verrou and to his own court. In secret, Sir Gabriel La Darcier, knight in the Lord Régis' court, plot with the humans to stage an uprising against Lord Régis so that she may be installed as Lady of Verrou. Characters may come across some of the following locales while exploring Dutron. Chateau La Berge. Sorry. Sitting atop Crimson Point, a great cliff overlooking Lake Foncé, the opulent Chateau La Berge is the fabulous yet grim home of Baroness Belépine La Berge. There she lives alongside her esteemed family and court. A labyrinthine monument of noble power, the palace is unreasonably large even for its many inhabitants. The tall spires cast over the beautiful gardens and greenhouses, while dome-shaped skylights let grey moonlight shine upon extravagant vampire feasts. However, even with the harsh rules the palace and its masters impose over Dutron, their insatiable hunger ensures their stores of blood are always close to empty. Once a sizable village, Grelin ruins. Once a sizable village of 1,000 residents, now a dilapidated ghost town, Grelin was brought low by a sweeping disease that killed off 2/3 of the town within only a few months. The remaining townsfolk fled to Cres, leaving the vampire master to starve. Now, Lord Look Petom, chaotic evil, bloodthirsty blood-starved vampire, him. Once the cruel lord of Grelin wanders the Devenant Forest with his court in tow, wallowing in madness. Nouvelle Ruins. Once a great city of considerable renown, the city of Nouvelle drowned in the Tir morasses hundreds of years ago, leaving behind a half-sunken monument to Dutrong's falling power. There, the corpses of those drowned still remain, preserved in the old muck, rising to drag any who dare disturb the old city to a shared fate of unending suffering beneath the mud. Use statistics of zombie or similar undead where necessary. Okay. Swamp of mud, acid, and ancient blood. The Tir morass is a draining point for all the filth in Dutrong. The Tir morass grows each year, slowly poisoning the entire domain. At the heart of the Tir morass, great wells of spilled blood congeal into screaming masses of old, forgotten, summoning primeval blood. See Chapter 3. Okay. Beyond the standard threats of particularly harsh wilderness, the wilds of Dutrong are home to all manner of unnatural threats. Undead creatures, particularly zombies, ghouls, and the occasional spirit, linger in a realm filled with more dead than living. However, the true threats to life at Dutrong sit upon its thrones. The vampires of Dutrong lord over the people from lofty heights, yet their decadence and ambition cannot lift them above all the wallowing muck. Vampires that fall from grace are reduced to maddened, blood-starved husks that stalk the roads, particularly around the Devenant Forest, devouring whatever living thing crosses their path. Will-o-wisp, Tir morass, vampire mist, ghost, ghast, specter, ghoul, boneless, and a zombie. Zombie plague spreader, vampire spawn, wraith, gallows stalker, zombie clot, Nouveau Ruin, Tir morass, Devenant Forest, and then for a blood-starved vampire, and then primeval blood. So that's where all the scary stuff is. Native Dutrong people are grim-faced humans who know little happiness. Non-humans are in common with the domain and are treated with little more than vague acknowledgement. Dutrong culture is rich and storied with elaborate traditions of art, music, performance, and culinary practice. However, much of this culture is actively being eroded by vampiric hedonism. With the people unable to practice the arts they used to centuries ago, the soulless vampire masters of Dutrong failing to appreciate or preserve the history of their land, all that is left to the people are stories of the old days. This only deepens the morose within the populace. The people of Dutrong are taught from a young age to keep quiet and out of the way, lest they fall afoul of a vampire, something they would likely earn any person in Dutrong a swift antagonizing end. A small subsection of peasants, those with the drive and the soul to aspire to greater heights, believe they will one day be free of their vampire overlords. However, the corrupting nature of Dutrong's masters often leads these souls entering the vampire courts themselves. They become new bloodthirsty tyrants, hell-bent on ruling over their former peers. The people of Dutrong live short, painful lives, toiling away over barren soil, paying their taxes in blood and gold, before returning to the fields weary and destitute. Most Dutrong people suffer from some form of chronic anemia due to the blood tax imposed by the Baroness and her vassals. Professional work in Dutrong is largely limited to only very basics required for societal function. Farming, masonry, carpentry, basic smithing, and similar work are all that's available to the average citizen. Finer artistry is limited to only wealthy vampires with the freedom to act in ways not directly tied to their survival. Courtesy of Dutrong's barely arable soil, food available to its people is limited in quality at best. Even the vampire nobility must often make do with a limited variety of available produce. Basic root vegetables, grains, and the occasional scrap of meat are all that's available to the average serf, with their vampire masters having little else beyond savoring the occasional splash of wine. Okay, these are the most notable personality individuals one can find in Dutrong. Lady Tenebrun, Colette Tenebrun, neutral evil vampire, she, her. Mastering of the crumbling Chateau Cresse, Lady Colette Tenebrun was once a legendary vampire. Hang on. Sorry, I just wanted to check to make sure. Sorry about that. Warlord, and her loyal knight to her liege, Baroness Belépine. She was so accomplished as a warrior that the Baroness rewarded her with the city of Classe for her excellence alone. Now, Lady Colette is a shadow of her former self. After the death of her love, Astaire, at the hands of a human uprising, she is withered to a hollow husk. She spends her days indulging in drink and debauchery before drunkenly staggering to her city to take revenge against humans that took her Astaire away from her. Colette is a dangerously unstable woman who lives only to spite the mortals she hates so virulently. Lady Detbel Vores. Chaotic evil. Vampire warrior, she, her. The sadistic lord of Sucri, Lady Detbel, is the youngest of the landed vampire nobles in Dutrong, having been turned to a vampire spawned by the previous lord 100 years ago. When Detbel staged a coup within the court, she did not kill her former master, instead piercing his bones with metal wire and mounting him like a trophy above her throne. He still hangs there today as an insane blood-starved vampire whose name nobody remembers. Lady Detbel demanded greater and greater blood taxes each year, far more than most vampire lords, simply to sate her thirst for suffering. Within 2 decades, the humans had mustered a rebellion. The rebellion was swift and bloody, costing Lady Detbel her left arm and eye, but the Lady of Sucri was victorious, skinning the rebel leaders alive and fashioning a necklace from their teeth. The rest of Sucri's citizens were forcibly enslaved within the walls of the Detbel's chateau. They now act as her laborers, servants, and blood bags for any hungry vampire within her court. Lawful evil Sir Gabriel Ladarusse. The night in Lord Regis court, Veru and former blood taker Sir Gabrielle is a prodigiously talented swordwoman with a silver tongue. She is stark in her speech, saying no more than she intends and exactly what she means with the commanding authority of a monarch. Ooh. Dissatisfied with Lord Regis' rule, Gabrielle has been secretly conferring with various members of the court, as well as a community leader among the humans in Verreau, on her plans to kill Lord Regis and instate herself as Lord of Chateau Veros. Veron, sorry. Lord Gustave Vidat, a lawful evil vampire spellcaster, he, him. Alright. Pretty cool. So he can cast. Sorry. I think this is pretty cool, honestly. I know we don't have a lot of people hanging out, so... but I think this is pretty cool, personally. One of the oldest vampires in Dutrong, Lord Gustave Vidat, has resided in Maublanc for hundreds of years and has taken 100 lifetimes worth of blood from its people. Lord Gustave understands that better than almost any other vampire in Dutrong that humanity is to be preserved. Oh, no, that's okay. You don't have to speak in chat. I'm glad you're here listening. Hi, welcome. Yeah, we're just vibing. I'm reading out this cool vampire, epic vampire vibe thing that we got from CZRPG. It was one of their freebies. And I snapped it up and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. So I've been, trying to figure out the deal because it's Friday and I figured something cool was in order. So, French vampires. Really, really, intensively evil French vampires. So, that's a vibe. Humanity is to be preserved and placated. He wards his people no luxuries, but he makes no effort to be cruel to them. As long as they pay their dues to him, he leaves them to their business, even helping them in subtle ways where necessary. However, over the past 50 years, the soil in Moublan has grown increasingly corrupt, forcing his citizens into famine. The stalwart lord watches his people perish, or simply flee the failing village to find shelter elsewhere in Dutron. When his resources failing and no available assistance from his fellow lords, Gustave has turned to black magic to restore his land, sacrificing peasants in hope of attracting the attention of a higher power willing to save his court. Ooh, okay. Lawful evil. Interesting. Chaotic evil. Lord Malefice Ramor. The quiet sorrow took hold of Lord Malefice centuries ago. He and his silent court of vampires watch over the dead city of Morville with a dreary melancholy. Lord Malefice was once a lively and decadent man whose enormous banquets were a height of grandeur in Dutrong. Now he's a silent spectre, seen by few. Most believe his melancholy to be the result of old Morville's destruction hundreds of years ago, but nobody is certain. The other vampire lords speak with Lord Maleficet and his silent court. Even the Baroness herself actively avoids having to communicate with him. Lord Regis de Roy, which is the one... Lord Militant of Verrou, Lord Regis de Roy is famed swordsman of legendary skill. He acts with the authority and demeanor of a cruel drill sergeant, both his people and his court, something that he is widely hated for. Lord Regis finds no joy in the fineries that most vampires enjoy, and largely forbids his court from taking part in them, much to their displeasure. While he is despised by most, few of the courage to attempt to dispose him, and those that do rarely last more than a few moments before he cuts them down. Except Sir Gabrielle. I believe she's trying to depose him. But we'll see how long that lasts. As a feudal barony, the vast majority of the land in Doutrang is owned by Baroness Belpine. She grants partitions of her land to prized vassals among her Crimson Court, allowing them to settle in villages and towns in the valley. Ooh, she's cool looking. She is gorgeous. Human peasants congregate around these castles, seeking food and safety from the wild, usually becoming serfs in the process. These serfs work the land around the lord's palace, paying their dues each month. The dues of the barony are paid in both goods and blood. Citizens are obligated to hand over the vast majority of their produce and a pint of blood from each member of the house, drawing with home-owned lancets and stored in wineskins. Those who fail to pay their dues receive a visit from the blood takers, the baroness's heavily armed tax collectors that will forcibly take whatever is due twice over as interest for their labor, often more than for their own profit. The arrival of these debt collectors is often result in one or more of these indebted being devoured. Blood takers have vampires spawned with the following changes. Oh, they've plate armor, DC 18. Pike, melee weapon attack, plus 6 to hit, 10 feet, target of D10 plus 6 piercing damage. Baroness Belépine Laberge. She's... dang. The Baroness of Doutrang and the matriarch of the Laberge family. Belépine Laberge is a high vampire and powerful hemomancer. I'm guessing that's some sort of blood magic. Who fights constant threats to her vampire brethren's food supplies and power struggles levied against her. Baroness Belpine is a tall, formerly human woman who appears to be in her early 40s, with deep dark skin, long white locks, locks as in with a C, so dreadlocks, and crimson red eyes that denote her vampiric nature. She holds herself with the grandeur of her station and looks down on those around her. The Baroness dresses in fine gowns of red, gold, and black, often incorporating wide collars and expensive furs. She wears no crown, instead bearing a brilliantly gold ring that holds a crystal bead containing a drop of her own blood. That's interesting. Probably a magical focus of some sort, I would guess. If you're trying to fight her, you have to smash the ring to do something to her power. A serene woman with a terrifying, commanding air about her. She speaks with such authority that she asks no questions and makes no requests, simply demanding answers and loyalty from those she addresses. Only with her children, as well as her most loyal vassals, does she show any form of affection, to whom she is a stern, motherly figure. Born into a minor house, La Berge, Belpine was an ambitious young woman with grand plans to take the throne of her native homeland. Doutrang was a thriving barony of loggers, miners, and farmers, of whom her father, Judicael Laberge, was the baron. At age 17, determined to take her father's seat and begin her ascent to the throne, Belpine pushed her brother Nathaniel from the edge of the Clemson Point, sending him plummeting into Lake Foncé. The tragic death drove her mother to sickness and her father to despair. The pair were dead within only a few years, granting Belpine the barony. Though her plots and schemes, the Baroness expanded her land, claiming the unused land of neighboring baronies and absorbing their vassals through bribery. During all this, Belpine married a wealthy merchant named Charles, to whom she reluctantly had 4 children: Inouï, Thieu, Bertrand, and Claudette. While her children were the only things she has ever shown genuine love for, their births, Claudette's especially, had been extremely taxing on her health. The idea that sickness could take her ambitions out of her reach filled Belpine with rage and despair. Over the next 7 years, she turned to all manner of fringe science and magic to strengthen her health, but all pointed to the painful mortality of life. In the end, she turned to the dark arts, seeking witches and fiends for knowledge. Her answer came in the form of a letter which described a dark ritual. With her life in the balance, Belpine took the chance. She and Charles had never loved one another, but he was of her family, so he would make the perfect sacrifice. So one night, she plunged a blade into his neck as he slept, chanted a string of dark words, then drank from his wound. A pain so agonizing gripped her insides that she was certain she was to die. Yet, hours later, the Baroness awoke as a vampire, more powerful than she could ever have dreamed to be in her life. She soon came to understand the laws of vampirism and spread her gift to her children, then her court, then to all her vassals. Over the decades, the vampires grew in number, and the strength of Dutronc grew with them. The barony soon marched in power and scale with mining duchies within the kingdom. While Belfine's lieges bowed to her terrifying power, it wasn't to last. As the vampire multiplied, the need for blood followed suit. Soon the population of Dutronc was surrounded by land, and the surrounding lands were rapidly shrinking each night, with vampires killing hundreds each month. The remaining humans, who had long since known the monsters ruled over them, banded together and began a revolt, calling in aid from the capital to the system. The battles were hard fought, with many vampires being killed, and thousands of humans perishing. In the end, Belpine watched from Crimson Peak, where she had pushed her brother to his death years ago, and witnessed her land turning into a graveyard. Just as her enemies surrendered, the mists swallowed Dutronc whole. Ah, yes, the mists. That is how it goes, isn't it? The mist will simply snag random evil places, and like Barovia or Dutronc, and just kind of sequester them away in the pocket dimension to be miserable forever. It has been centuries since the uprising that plunged Dutronc into Ravenloft occurred. And Belpine still holds power in her domain. However, the issue of food is now more dire than before. The vampire numbers surge and dwindle, ever destabilizing the human numbers. Not enough humans means the vampires starve, while too many risks them growing bold enough to rise up again. What's more, the Tir Morass, once negligible marshland in the eastern Dutronc, has swallowed much of the eastern border and is now a threat to the domain as a whole. I believe that's supposed to be now and not, instead of not. It's a minor typing error, I believe. It poisons the land more and more with each passing year, slowly starving out the humans. Yes, definitely now a threat. It is not a threat, makes no sense. Belpine's current vassal lords are too busy with their own struggles to dare rise up against her, though many long-forgotten vassals have had to be removed from her court in the past for their betrayals. The Laberge family. Okay, so there's also a whole proper sheet for her in case she's medium undead. She's a shape changer. Awful evil. She's resistance from non-magical attacks, bludgeoning, piercing, slashings, resistance. Dark vision no under 20 feet. Passive perception of 17. Speaks common. Challenge rating of 15. Proficiency bonus plus 5. Pretty good saves and some good skills too. Polymorph into a medium cloud of blood mist or back into her true form. While in mist form, Belfine can't take any action, speak, or manipulate objects. She's weightless, has a flying speed of 20 feet, can hover, can enter a hostile creature's space, and stop there. In addition, if air can pass through the space, the mist can do so without squeezing, and it can't pass through water. So she can basically, if there's a little crack or a hole or if something isn't airtight, she can go in and out freely, which is pretty epic. And she has legendary resistance 3 times a day. When she drops 0 hit points outside her resting place, transformed into a cloud of blood mist. As in a shape-changer state, instead of falling unconscious, provided she isn't in sunlight or running water. If she can't transform, she's destroyed. So basically you have to kill her in full sunlight, or kill her in the river, I guess. So you have to get her into a river or sunlight before knocking her down to 0. Okay. Oh, and she can climb surfaces, including upside down and ceilings, without need to make an ability check. And regains 20 hit points at the start of her turn if she's at least 1 hit point and isn't stunned later running water. That's pretty cool. That's probably why she's such a high challenge rating. If it takes radiant damage, the train doesn't function, so you have to do radiant damage. Doesn't require air. Can't enter a residence without an invitation from one of the occupants. Takes 20 acid damage if she ends her turn in running water. If a piercing weapon made of wood is driven into Belphine's heart while she's incapacitated in her resting place, she's paralyzed until the stake is removed. 20 radiant damage when she starts the turn in sunlight. While she's in the sunlight, she has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Hypersensitivity. 20 radiant damage when she starts her turn in sunlight. Okay. 3 blood lance attacks or 4 claw attacks. And she can replace any one of these with a bite. Dang. Okay. Hang on. So, Lady Inui, Leberge, Shide, the eldest of Bellipine's children. Inoue is the spitting image of her mother, but the two could not be more different. She is somewhat unsettlingly thinner than her mother, with shorter, curlier hair. Quiet and reclusive, Inoue spends her days drifting about one of the towers of Chateau Laberge that she claims for herself. Does not particularly care about the politics of Dutong. She makes no effort to assist her mother, preferring to stay out of the way unless directly called upon to assist in social gatherings, matters of state, or brutal torture. Belpine is disappointed in her daughter's reserved nature, failing to grasp that she is likely the cause of it. Inoue is a vampire with the following changes. Ooh, she's a flying speed and can hover. Invisibility. Magically turns invisible until she attacks or until her concentration ends, as if concentrating on her spell. Any equipment she wears or carries is invisible with her. Oh, so the Baroness herself doesn't have flying speed, but her daughter does. Interesting. And then Tuer, chaotic neutral. He's a warrior. Him. Secondborn is a violent lunatic. Tuer is a violent lunatic who keeps his meticulous count of all his kills, human and vampire. He has surpassed the 4-digit mark the better part of 50 years ago. Tuer himself is a tower of muscle, nearly 7 feet tall and weighing well over 300 pounds, with short white lined-up hair styled into waves. Despite his violent, masochistic nature, Tuer is fiercely loyal to his mother, gladly serving her as her personal protector and most loyal lapdog. Vampire warrior. Strength score of 22. Okay, he can't fly, though. So, and then Bertrand is second youngest child. Bertrand is simultaneously her favorite and her greatest enemy. Unlike his older sister, Inui, who takes after their mother in all but nature, Bertrand Leberge, looks very little like his mother, but shares her ambitious, cutthroat nature. Bertrand lacks the signature white hair shared by his family, instead donning dark locks and a neatly trimmed beard. He stands at fairly average height and shares a few facial features with his mother and siblings, gaining most of them from his father, since deceased. Most vampires in Dutong fear the schemes of Bertrand Leberge. A tactical genius and masterful social engineer, Bertrand is second to none in getting people to do what he wants. His relationship with his mother is very turbulent, cycling between each other's close confidants and advisors to bitter rivals. They both understand that one day Bertrand will try to take the throne from his mother, but neither have made a move yet. Bertrand is also well aware of his brother. Tuer hates him, but doesn't particularly care. Okay, that's drama. What about the youngest, Claudette? Belpine's youngest, Claudette, was turned into a vampire at age 10. Unbeknownst to Belpine at the time, vampires do not age slower, they simply don't age at all. Plus, Claudette has been trapped as a child for hundreds of years. Oh, poor Claudette. A short young girl with long white ringlets tied with red ribbons, Claudette looks similar to her mother when she was her age. Claudette's state is complex. She possesses the knowledge and understanding of being that has lived for centuries, but maintains a childlike nature and temperament that age cannot quell. She resents her mother for trapping her in this state, but lacks the maturity to express it in a way where anyone actually pays her any attention. As an outlet for her crippling self-loathing, Claudette has been kidnapping human children from nearby farms for decades, turning them into her friends and killing them the moment they start to grow mature enough to question her actions. Belpine's torment. The Baroness has gotten her wish. Oh, hi! Sig! It is! Hello, hello! Welcome, welcome. We are, there is the epic Vampire Queen. So there's, I am back, I will give you a little bit of an overview. I managed to snag this module. It's one of the domains of Dread from Ravenloft, called Dutronc, which is used to be a barony in some French-speaking question. Serious question. Okay, fair. Serious question. That is a hard question. I would say I have more emotional connection to Amethyst, but I'm trying to get a feel for Jasper. I'm still kind of feeling him out, but he has potential, and I miss Tourmaline actually. I liked him best, I will say. But yes, I do have more connection to Amethyst, but I'm trying to get a feel for Jasper. I don't dislike him, and honestly, he fits in well with this group. His exasperation, and just like, okay, let's do this. It's a good attitude to have with this group in the play, how it ends up. Especially because I can't really role play all that well. Because I can't. My mic on my new headphones doesn't work because my phone is stupid and I hate it. And, there's reasoning behind it, but point being, I can't really role play as much as Jasper. So he has an interesting. Possibly. I need to find she will turn up somewhere in Aird, and if I get a chance, I could play her and have her level 5. She is dear to me, but running around Aird, possibly getting into shenanigans at some point. If I could manage to find a time that I wasn't working, that other people weren't working, that we could play, that would be helpful. But, that is not an easy thing to do. Okay. But yeah. Let's see. When Belpine wishes to close the borders, the mists take on a sickening reddish hue as vampiric mists begin to close down the blood of those that are trying to escape Dutronc. So she can just close the borders whenever she wants. She is uncontested ruler of the domain and could call herself queen if she so willed it. However, this victory is hollow, for she's now forced to manage an ever-spiraling logistical nightmare as her once beautiful and historic barony crumbles all around her. That's a tragedy. Well, Bifine has gotten her power she craved. Dutronc is a crumbling nation whose opulence is fading with each passing year. Eventually, it will become a place that isn't even worth ruling. She knows that the humans are slowly dying out, and she's afraid that she or her children will become blood-starved monstrosities. She loves her children like nothing else in the world, but knows the strong possibility that one or more of them will betray her. Sucks to suck. Yeah. This poor... She ruled the barony because, she killed her brother to take over the barony, and then, turned into a vampire when she almost died when Claudette was born. And then, after that, she, turned a bunch of other people in her barony into vampires until there were too many vampires, and the humans revolted. The capital police, they got call in from the Carmi. But her enemies had finally surrendered to her until then the mists took over and Dutronc is trapped in the domain of Dread and not a thing. And then Claudette, of course, got turned when she was 10 and is struggling as an eternal child, and it's making her miserable. And then role-playing Belpine. Callous and commanding, Belpine is a woman who decides what she wants and simply takes it from others with little regard for them or their qualms. I'm regal in my demeanor and will always be treated accordingly. People are tools to be used. Those who fail to grasp this fact are the most pitiable of them all. I will secure this land for my children and my vassals. I will feast well and then when my work is done. The whims of myself and my family outweigh everything else. Yeah, that's fair. like, okay, I guess it's a way to break her down, but it still seems kind of, it seems, at least to me, it seems like a silly way of breaking down a character into those 4 chunks, you know? Like, it's a good way to get a feel for them, but it's a crutch, I would say, for someone who, you know, have difficulty role-playing. I'm like, you can do better than that. You can figure that out without, like, you can make that into, like, a paragraph or something. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to bust it like that. You know what I mean? It bugs me that people bust it out like that. Revolves around cruel and corrupt nobility abusing the weak for their own gain. Thus, most adventures will cause characters to come face to face with the cruelties levied against the destitute citizens of Drang by their undead overlords. Nobles in Drang are not simply vampires in the literal sense. Their very existence sucks the life out of people and land they claim ownership of. Humans are the only race native to Drang, alongside the occasional Dhampir that is born among the courts from time to time. Other races are very uncommon, largely because the outsiders would simply be subject themselves to suffering should they choose to remain in the dying land. Additionally, for class options, consider the following characters. Bard. While they are among the few able to make a wealthier living entertaining the courts of Drang, bards spend much of their time around the fickle vampire nobility. Their lives are dangerous, but cunning and tenacious are well rewarded. Traveling bards are likely to be College of Spirits, College of Swords, or College of Valor. Bards who remain with a single vampire court for long periods of time are likely to be College of Whispers. Oh, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This is Van Richten's Guide to Lagerloft. Okay, that's what these are. That's what these little notes are. They're little, this is just where the, yeah, like, here, oh, look, show you, it, all of the, Van Richten's Guide to Lagerloft, Boneless, yeah. Vampiric Mist, I'm not sure which one that is. Van Richten Guide to Ravenloft, Van Richten Guide to Ravenloft, Van Richten Guide to Lagerloft, and then Bloodstarved and Primeval are unique to this, but, Not Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Monster Manual? MM is maybe Monster Manual, but I don't know. Fighters, those with martial prowess are generally taken in by the vampire courts to turn into pawns. Fighters of this nature are generally of the Eldritch Knight archetype. All fighters are forced to learn a range of strategies in combat, hence they also adopt a battle monster archetype because they're forced into strategy. Rangers. Hunters of monsters aren't overly common in Drang, beating back beasts, blood-starved vampires, and horrors of the Tir-Moras pays well if you can survive it. Rangers of Drang are largely the Beastmaster archetype, the Hunter archetype, or the Monster Slayer, with Xanathar's Guide to Everything archetype. Rogues, occasionally employed by the vampire courts to strike out against one another. Rogues in Drang are generally the Assassin archetype or the Phantom archetype. TCE. Warlock. Suitable patrons for Warlock in Drang could be a Primeval Blood from Tir-Moras or Baroness Belpine herself. These warlocks would be the undead patron. Wizard. The abundance of undeath in Drang leads many wizards in Drang to pursue the school of necromancy. For ideas on adventures that could take place in Drang, considering the plots on the Drang adventure table. Ooh, the end adventures. A famine breaks out in one of the villages, threatening the balance between human and vampire. Sir Gabriel La Darusset begins her uprising in Vireux against Lord Regis. He's like the really evil vampire lord, and Sir Gabriel La Darusset is one of his knights, and she's trying to plot an uprising against him. The blood-starved vampires of Devon Forest grow restless and begin attacking towns. For them to act in coordination is unheard of. Someone must be leading them. Ooh. Lady Claudette Leberge seeks a way to end her vampiric state. She hires the characters behind her mother's back to help her find a way. The Tir-Moras begins to rapidly spread, threatening to swallow Cress within weeks and all of Drang before the year is out. Something has caused the surge in growth. Baroness Pelepinier seeks to marry off her eldest daughter, Inui. Every vampire family in Drang is prepared to send a suitor to the fine ball that is to accompany the event, and of course, shenanigans ensue. There are many noble houses of vampires in Drang. Each of these lords serve Baroness Belpine and have their own land to rule, with castles and settlements from which they can centralize their power. Beneath the lords are the two classes of nobles, courtiers and knights. Courtiers are minor nobles that live and work within the courts of their lord, taking on administrative or military positions within the lord's land. Some powerful courtiers are full-fledged vampires with minor houses of their own, but most are vampire spawn, subservient to the presiding lord. Knights, while not subservient to courtiers, are generally considered to be lower in rank and are the only position of power a non-vampire can gain in Dutrong. Knights serve a lord, or perhaps even the Baroness herself, acting as problem solvers tasked with dealing with threats throughout the lord's land. Becoming a knight is also the only way for a non-vampire to avoid the blood taxes. Their overall health is considered more important than the negligible decrease in blood tolls. Both courtiers and knights use Sir as a gender-neutral honorific. Some older vampires prefer to be referred to as Dame, or sometimes even as Vavasseur, but these have fallen out of fashion in recent centuries. Life as a courtier and knight is very cutthroat, with constant infighting and betrayals as power-hungry vie for political gain. Murder and duels to the death are common, with some in the courts being overthrown at least once every few years. With someone in the courts being overthrown at least once every few years. If I had to rate vampires on a scale of likability, I'd put them somewhere between impotent twats and 9. Generally speaking, though, they're just overgrown, prissy rich kids. Annoying and terrible, but very easy to punch in the crotch. These vampires, however, you'd have to wade through an entire army and waltz into one of their fancy palaces just so you can give your fist a courtly introduction to their private parts. Speaking from an ample experience, it's difficult. A quote of an unknown hunter, perhaps. This is an interesting indeed. Wow, okay. So, Dutrong is pretty cool. I will admit to that. It is a domain of dread and an intensive, cool little thing on its own that I have in my arsenal now. Thanks to CZRPG and them being awesome. Yeah. I would recommend, absolutely. I don't know what to do with it. I guess I could run a game in it if we wanted. But I'd need to run, it takes time to run a game in something because then you have to it's a whole thing. Yeah. Neutron is pretty cool. I think that was the stream for today. It was pretty simple, actually. It was just kind of, here, let's hear about this cool vampire thing, and then we hear about the cool vampire thing. Very little distraction. Probably why I'm crazy exhausted, because the distractions help keep me focused and awesome sauce. So, but the plan after the stream today is, I think, a raid. And also, tomorrow, I'll have to figure out when I'm going to stream ahead of time, and then 32% more vampires. Yeah, there are a lot of vampires. That's kind of the whole thing in Dutrong. Also, the vampires are 75% more French than your average vampire. They'd be closer to 100, but Interview with a Vampire has enough French vampires to kind of balance it out a little bit, but not much. Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, there's nothing, nothing dangerous about a croissant or two before, you have your people. Absorbs the blood nicely, diffuses it out. I mean, it's better than adding Weetabix for texture, which is, Anyway. Weetabix apparently add a nice texture to blood if you have to drink it out of a mug. But, you add Weetabix for texture. It's apparently a thing. I'm sure croissant would be much tastier. STL. Oh, so... Okay. They're holding a fundraising mini. That's interesting. Yes, I will respond to G. I promise, cross my heart. I will. And also, Dagmar will figure out what to ask Issa next about, and will defend her best pizza place because. No, that makes perfect sense. And Valdez is probably. This is probably something he's used to, I would guess. He's used to his every move being scrutinized, and honestly is not afraid of mercenaries because in his mind, he can just seduce them. That is his plan in life. He's been around enough mercenaries that he knows he can, unless he's specifically ordered dead, he just don't do anything where you're specifically supposed to be ordered dead and you can just seduce your way out of mercenary killing you. That's Valdez's theory on things, and it's served him well so far. Let's see, who's around? Ooh, Anapengu is playing Final Fantasy. That's fun. We got that, or Epic Duck. What else? Is there anyone else? It might be. Hang on, I gotta check something real quick. Critical Role is obviously streaming, but I think it's a replay. But yeah, no, it's either we pop into one of the art streams or we we can pop into one of the art streams, or we can go watch Final Fantasy. I'm gonna, how do you think Valdez existed for as long as he did? Mercenaries are almost always, in his mind, on his side. He's always been on that side of things. Let's see. Tacos to make. Alright, well, you go make tacos. The rest of us will pop in and watch Brush for Hire paint. Ooh, I think it's some sort of spaceship thing. Like a mecha. Looks pretty cool. We're gonna go raid Brush for Hire. If you don't want to come along, you don't have to come along. Go make tacos. And I will see you soon. Bye.